Hello and welcome to the Maze Run Code Along. Before we get started with our Code Along today, let's have a look at some resources that can help further your learning within computing science. You can find the recorded Code Along video and even more resources to further your learning across early, first and second level in the files section of the Curriculum Live Lessons team. On the screen you will see 5 computational thinking approaches outlined by Barefoot Computing. These are like skills that we'll use in today's Code Along, and I'm going to go through each of them quickly so you understand what each approach does. So tinkering is just like playing around with the code to see how and why things work, which we'll be doing some of that today. Creating is a key skill today as we are taking part in Education Scotland's Create Along, and by the end of this session you will have created a cool game using blocks of code in Makecode. Debugging is just looking for errors in the code, creating ways to fix the code, and then changing the code to make your program function correctly. Persevering is a very important approach to use, as sometimes the code can get quite tricky, but the key is to never give up and try different things to complete your task. Finally, we have Collaborate. This is important as you'll be able to use all the other approaches alongside this one. You may be collaborating with a peer in class to find a bug and fix it, or even just collaborating by sharing a device today when you're doing today's Code Along. These skills and approaches will help you create a fun and exciting game. Now we'll move on and have a look at today's learning intention and success criteria. So your learning intention today is to create an arcade game using a visual programming language. And the success criteria is, I can use Makecode Arcade, I can include multiple variables to keep track of points, time and lives, I can explain what parallel programming is and how it is used in this program, and I can identify any bugs and indicate how to fix them. Let's go with today's task before we get started our coding. So today you are tasked with creating a game using Makecode Arcade, and the game that you will create today will be a maze, and the aim is to collect as many crystals as possible and get out the maze before the timer ends. So let's get coding. So to get started today, you have to actually click on the new project button, and it's this big orange button over on the left hand side. When you click on there, it then asks you to give your project a name. I would always recommend putting your own name or initials in the name of your project, just so you know that it is yours. So I'm just going to do Mr. C Maze Run. And then once you've done that, click on the green Create button. It will then create a whole workspace inside Makecode Arcade ready for you to go. But we haven't actually got started yet, so we're going to very quickly just go through a quick little tour to make sure that you know exactly where different things are. So over on the left hand side here we have got our handheld simulator, and in this screen here, this is where all your code will start to come to life and you'll start to see the game be created inside of here. If you're needing more space, you can actually just use this little arrow and hide the simulator, and then when we test any of our code, you can bring it back out and press the play button that is just down the bottom here. On the right of the simulator, we have got all of the blocks of code, and these are all the different categories that we'll be looking at and using today. We might not be using all of the categories and not all of the blocks, but we'll be using quite a lot of them today. And one really good thing is, to drag some of the blocks out, all you have to do is take your finger or your mouse, click, and then drag across into this big section over here. And this is called the workspace. You will notice though, when your block isn't connected to other blocks, it will go into what I like to call ghost mode, and it loses all of its colour. But when you drag it into an actual block, you'll see a little shadow and a little yellow piece appear on the block you're trying to connect it to. Once you've done that, let go, and it will just connect straight into it, and you'll start to see the colour of the block again. When you see the colour, you know that it's connected and it's going to be working. Just to get rid of any blocks that you don't need, do the opposite of what we just did. Grab it and then take it back to its category. You'll see a little bin, and I just drop it in there and it will go away. Another area we're going to be looking at today is the assets area, and up here this is where we'll create our maze map and we'll create some of our sprites as well. So when you click into the assets section, we will use this green button today to create some different things. Let's go back into the block section though up here. The final thing I'm going to show you is the zoom in and out. So the buttons are down here, you can actually zoom out and zoom in to the workspace, okay? And if you're on an iPad, you can use your finger and you can drag the workspace around, or if you're on a PC or a laptop, you can just click anywhere on the workspace and drag it around like so, and you can move around your code. Because today we'll have quite a bit of code to go through, and we might need some space to be created as we're going through this. But that is kind of Makecode Arcade, what you need to know for today. The next part we're going to go on to is starting to create our main sprite for today. Okay, so let's drag in our very first block of code. So we're going to go into the blue sprites category at the top of the menu. We're actually looking for the very first block at the top in the create section that says set my sprite to sprite of kind player. And I'll go through what that kind of means in a wee second. So we're basically creating a sprite just now, and the little grey box means you don't have a sprite in there just now. So we're going to click on the little grey box and it should take us into the assets section. So in here you can actually create your own sprites, but today we're going to just go into the gallery. I'm going to choose one from the ones that are already created by Makecode. And I'm going to use one of these little guys here. And it's one with a little hat that's looking forward, so it looks like he's walking forward all the time. Once you've clicked on that, all you have to do is click on the green done button, and then you will notice on the block the little character is now there, and hopefully in a little second on our screen we will start to see our little character very soon. Also, when it says there of kind player, the reason it says that is you can create players, you can create projectiles, enemies and food and different kinds of characters or sprites within your game, but this kind of sprite is a player today. The second bit of block we're going to look at is in the controller section, and we're looking for how we can move our sprite around. And again, it's actually in the single player controller section, and it says move my sprite with buttons. Just drag that out and place it underneath, just like so. Okay, and if you just click on this little plus button at the end, it will actually open up a little bit more, and it shows us now the speed that our character moves in. So it just says VX and VY 100, so that just means that it's the velocity of the X axis and the velocity of the Y axis. So we always talk about the kind of X and Y whenever we're kind of building the games in Makecode. We're going to take a wee pause there, and we'll come back in a little second to move on to the next part. Please remember, this is a recorded video, so you can pause, rewind, replay at any time you need to make sure you're catching up and you've got all the code that you need. Now this part we're going to start by creating the actual tile map for our maze. So what we actually need to do is go into the assets section at the top of the workspace. We're going to just click on that button, and then it should now see our little character in the assets page, and also the big green button. You click on the green button, it'll give us a few different options. So we're going to create some tiles later on, but just now we want to create the tile map. So we're going to click on that. When you do so, it'll open up a big page that looks like this, and it'll default to this kind of grass tile that you've got already. But we're going to move over to the left hand side and change up this part that says forest. Click a little down arrow and you can change it to dungeon. So the very first thing we're going to do is find this chest here. You can use either one of those, the open one or the closed one. I like to use the closed one and put that down at the bottom right corner, just like so. When you are doing this, you don't have to go back every time and click on it and put it in. If you just put in lots of them, you can just keep clicking and it'll add loads and loads. If you, for example, accidentally put one in, you don't want it, you go up to the top of this section here and there's a wee erase tool. You click on that, and then when you click on the ones, it should then just disappear. Just remember, go back and click on the little pencil again so you can start adding in more tiles. So once you've done that, you can then click on this little arrow here. And this arrow lets you swipe along to different tiles that we're going to use today. The next tile we're going to use is a little door tile, which is just this one here. And this is going to be not at the top, very top left, but one row down. Okay, and just click it in here, just like so. And this is where our player is going to start from every single time when the game starts. So we are creating a maze, so we need to create some walls. So I like to use this tile here, but you can use any of the tiles you wish within this section, but I'm going to use this one today. I'm going to just show you very quickly how to put in one wall, and then I'll speed up the video and put in the rest of the walls. Remember, you can pause the video at that point, create your map, and then move on once you are ready. So the first thing you have to do then is just start looking at creating your walls. So if you're on an iPad, you can actually just use your finger and drag across like I just did there. But if you're on a PC or a laptop, you can just hold down your mouse and then drag where you want your walls to go, just like that. As I said, I'm going to speed up the video just now, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, now that I've got my maze ready and all the walls are placed in, there is one other thing I need to do. Because at the moment, all we've actually done is just put tiles on the floor, so we actually need to turn them into walls. If you move your mouse or your finger and you click on this block over here, just above where it says gallery, and it should then turn red. When you've done that, you can then click on the tiles you've just put down, and it will start to then turn them into walls. But a quick little handy tip, if you click on the little paint pot, this is a little fill tool, if you click on that and then click on anywhere where the tiles are all connected, it should make all of them go red. When you see them go red, that is when you know that your tiles have now been turned into walls. Once you've done that part, you can click on the little done button and then click back into the block section. Anytime we change anything in the workspace or in the assets, it will change it over here in the simulator, but we actually haven't added in the code yet for our map, so it won't show just now. But we are going to take a little break there, and we'll come back in a little second and start to add in the code. So this part, we're going to start adding in some of the maze background and some colour to our screen. Now, so the first thing we're going to do is go to the scene section with a little tree on it. And we're looking for the one that says set background colour 2, and it's in the screen section just here. We drag that out and place it just underneath the move my sprite with buttons one. And just now it should change our screen to a kind of greyish colour at the moment. We're going to change that up, and we're going to change it to anything you wish. But I'm going to go for this kind of dark purple, because it makes it easier to see when we have our walls there, and it's easy to see our little character as well. Then from there, we'll go back into the same section, the scene section, and we're looking for one that says set tile map 2. So if you scroll down a little bit, and there is a tile map section you'll see just here, and it's the very first block there that says set tile map 2 tile map. Drag that out and place it just underneath the background colour block. So we have just created our tile map a second ago. So if you just click on here, this time we don't have to create it, we've already done that. We click on My Assets and then click on our map just there. Once you've done that, click on the Done button and it should allow us to see our maze on our screen now. And just a little test, if you actually just press on the little play button, or if it's not playing, it's stopped, press on the play button and use your arrow keys just to move your sprite around. You'll see that the actual character can't go past the walls. Okay, perfect. If you are obviously on an iPad, you can just use the little joystick on the screen. Also, if you wanted to go full screen, you can click on this little button here and it'll put it in full screen. So if you are on an iPad today, then this will make it easier to actually play the game as well. And to come back out of full screen, just click on the button again. Then the next part we're going to go on to is we're going to actually make sure that our sprite starts on top of this little door at the start of the game all the time. So we're going to go back into our scene section again, and we're looking for one that says place my sprite on top of random. Okay, so we're going to scroll down a little bit, and it's in the tile map operations we're looking for, and it's this one here that says place my sprite on top of random tile. So drag that out and place it there. But if I just let that happen, then my sprite would randomly appear somewhere, which you can now see he has disappeared from my screen just now. So we're going to click on this little part here, and it lets us decide where the sprite will start. So we're going to let him start on this little door. So when it reboots and the simulator comes back on, our little sprite should now be on the door. Perfect. We've got a couple more blocks to go on to, and then we'll take a wee pause in there. But please remember, you can pause, rewind, and replay the video at any time, because this is a recorded content. We're going to go back into the kind of scene section again, one last time, and we're looking for one that says camera follow sprite. Because as we've seen a minute ago, the sprite actually disappeared off the screen, but that's because it's in a different location on the map, but the camera isn't following the sprite. We need to make sure the camera follows it as we're going along. And it's in this camera section here, and it's the very first one that we can see just there. We pull that out and place that just underneath, so when this reboots, we can move our sprite around and we'll start to see that the camera will follow it no matter where it goes on the map. Perfect, that's exactly what we're looking for. And we've got one final block to add. And it's a new block we haven't looked at before in a new section, and it's in the info section. And we're looking for a countdown block. So we'll scroll down a little bit, and there's a countdown section here, and it says start countdown 10 seconds. Drag this one out and place it at the bottom of there, just like that. 10 seconds isn't a lot of time, so I'm going to actually change that just by clicking on it. Either use your finger if you're on an iPad, or click on it with your mouse and type in the number 30. So that way you've got 30 seconds to get from the start of your maze to the end of your maze. Alright, so take a wee play around with it, see if you can get to the end of your maze within 30 seconds. If you can't, maybe you've made your maze too difficult. But we're going to take a wee pause just here, and then we'll come on to the next part when we start to code our little chest. Okay, we're going to move on to coding the chest that is in our game. So that is the end point of our game so far. At the moment, if our little sprite reaches the end of the maze, nothing happens. So we have to create another little bit of script of code. So far, all of our coding blocks went into the one script. Just now, we're actually going to create a second script of code. And this is going to be a parallel script. So we're going to do a little bit of parallel programming just now. And all that means is it'll be two separate bits of code, but they will work together to achieve a goal. Okay, so we're going to go back into the scene section, and we're going to scroll down a little bit and find the one that says on sprite of kind player overlaps tile at location. And again, I'll go through kind of just what that means at the moment. So all it is saying is when our sprite that is a player overlaps with a tile, something inside this block happens. So we have to change this one actually to the little chest tile, just so it knows that when it overlaps with the chest, that something then needs to happen. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to create a little bit of sound in it. So we'll go to the music section, which is the kind of pink blocks here. And we're going to look for the one that says sounds, not songs, but sounds. And it's the one here that says play sound bidding until done. Drag that out and place that inside here. This is where I usually apologise to every teacher. If you've got about 30 iPads or laptops all going bidding, bidding, bidding all the time, then it's going to get quite noisy, so you might want to turn down your volume or use headsets if you have them. The next part then, it is a game, remember, so we need to make sure that at the end, if you win, and it's a game over symbol that we see. So go into the purple game blocks, and you're looking for the one there that says game over. And it has a little green switch on it that says win. That can be changed to lose, but we're going to change it and keep it as a win just now, because when you get to the chest, yes, you got to the end of the maze, you have won the game. And for a little bit of fun, you go back into the purple game blocks. There's one just underneath the game over block that's called use effect confetti, and drag that out and place that underneath just now. I'm going to test our code out. We haven't done much of our testing today, so we're going to go over to here, and all you have to do is use your arrow keys or use the touchpad on your iPad to get you through your maze, get to the end, and the phone plays, and the confetti comes down the screen and it says you win. Perfect, and I managed to do that in just under 10 seconds. Have we go, test out your code, see if it works, and see how quickly you can get out of your own maze. So now we're going to go back into the assets area and create a little monster that is going to be inside of our maze. So we click on the assets button, and then just like we did earlier, press the little create new asset, and this time we're going to create a tile. Click on that and it'll take you into the editor area. You could go in and just pick one from here, however I think we should have a wee go at creating one of our own little monsters. So I'm going to just start showing you how to do that. So you click on any colour you're looking for, and I'm going to create mine almost like a little green ghost. So do something like this, and then just drag it down, just so it almost looks like a little kind of Pac-Man type ghost. And actually I'm going to leave it at that, so I'm going to use my little eraser tool and just get rid of that last one there. Remember, if you do use the eraser, click back onto the little pencil so that you can then add more to it and not take away anything. I'm then going to use the black one, and I'm going to just put in a couple of little eyes for my ghost and a little mouth as well. Once you've got your little monster ready, click on the little done button, and then we're going to go back into our maze map. When you click on it, on the left hand side it'll give you an option to edit. If you click on that, we're going to start to add in some of your monsters. So very quickly, all you have to do this time, instead of changing this, you need to go into the My Tile section, and you should see your little monster ready to go. If you click on your little monster, and then now when you go in, you can start to add in the monster to your game. So just add in a few of them around your map, anywhere you wish, to get your game ready to go. So I've put in there a few different monsters, and then once you've done that, click on the done button and your monsters will be added to the map. If we go back into the block section, we should then see hopefully our map update with our little monsters on it. If it does this, it goes blank, just click on the little reset button, and now we can see all of our little monsters in here. But when we touch the monsters, nothing's happening just now because we haven't actually coded our monsters yet. So we'll take a wee pause here, and then we'll move on to actually adding in some code for our little monsters. So now we're going to move on to actually creating some code for the monsters. And again, it will be another parallel program, and this time there's going to be a little bit of sensing involved as well, so that when the little sprite moves over the monster, it will sense it, it will disappear, and we're actually going to add some life points now as well. So the first thing we're going to have to do is go into the seeding section, and we're going to put it the same big block we did earlier. So it's in the tile maps area, and it's one that says on sprite of kind player overlaps, and drag that one in just underneath there. The next thing we have to do is change this little block and make sure it's the little monster block that's on there, and then we can get started with adding in some more of our own coding blocks. So the first one we're going to do is go into the info blocks, and we're going to go to the life section, which is just in here. And we're going to get the change life by -1 and drag that just inside. So when our little sprite touches the monster, it will take off a life point, but we actually haven't told our game how many lives we need to start with. So we have to do that in the beginning and place it underneath the countdown block. So go back into the info section and find the one that says set life to 3. Drag that in and place it underneath there, just like that. And the reason we're putting it in here is because that will always, at the start of the game, go back to 3. But I'm going to change it to 5 and make the game a little bit easier, so you've got more lives. Remember, if you have more lives, the easier the game will be. If you have less lives, then the harder it will become, because you need to try and watch out for those little monsters. Moving back over into this section here, then we're going to go back into our pink music section and find the one we did earlier, play sound bidding until done. Drag that in and place it underneath just like so. We don't want it to be the same sound, so we're going to click on the little arrow beside it, and we're looking for the one that says zapped. So drag it down a little bit, and it is just here for us. You click on that, and we've got one more thing just to change in that block. Because if we let that play until done, then it would probably take off quite a lot of life points from us, because the sound is quite long. So we have to change the until done part. Click on the little arrow beside it and do it in background, so that when it starts playing, the next block we have after it will then get programmed and will run straight away rather than waiting until the sound is finished. We're going to go back into the scene block and we're going to scroll down to the area that says tile map operations, and we're looking for this block here that says set tile at a specific location. Drag that in and place it just underneath the pink block, okay? And we're not going to actually change this tile here because that's going to basically make our tile go blank and make our monster disappear. And that's exactly what we want to happen. But there's one more thing we have to change before we move on. This little location block here, we can actually copy that just by dragging it out and placing it inside here, like so. So that piece of block basically just says that when the sprite overlaps the monster, it will change the life by 1, it will play the sound zap in the background, and it will set the tile to blank as if the monster has disappeared. Perfect. Have a wee test of that. Go over to your game, go around and just double check. Yep, it's making the sound and actually hitting the monsters. You want to actually hit them to make sure you're doing it every single time. Perfect. That is working excellently for me just now. If that hasn't worked for you, remember we are doing a little bit of debugging today, and you can pause the video, rewind it and replay it any time, and just make sure that all the blocks of code that I have got on my screen are the exact same that you have on yours. Take a wee pause here and we'll move on to the next part when we're starting to collect crystals. Now we're going to have to create our crystals in the asset section as we've done before with our little monsters before. So click on the assets and then click on the big green button again. And we're going to click on tile. From here, I'm going to make my crystal like a light blue colour, and you can make this look any way you wish, but I'm going to make mine look like a kind of little type of snowflake. Once you've created your crystal, then just click on the done button, and then remember, we're going to click on the tile map and edit, and now we can start to add in our crystals. Last time we clicked on the My Tiles, and we're going to click on your crystal this time round. And now you can start to add in your crystals as you're going along. I would recommend putting your crystals quite close to your little monsters, then that way it makes the game that little bit harder just to move around. Once you've placed your crystals, click on the done button and then go back into the block section. Remember, you can pause, rewind and replay this video at any time, and we're going to move on to actually coding our crystals in the next part. Take a wee pause here and then make sure you're all set up with all the correct code, and then we'll move on to actually adding in the code for our crystals. So we're going to move on to the final part of today's code along. I'm just going to scroll my workspace down a little bit so I've got some space underneath here to add in some more code. So we're going to add in a very similar code to the monsters code, and this time we're going to start off by going into the scene section, and then we're going to scroll down and find the tile maps area, which is here, and we're looking for the one that says overlaps on it, just like before. Drag that in and place it into your workspace. First thing we have to do is remember to change this little section, the tile section, and change it to the crystal that you have just created in your editor. From here, we're then going to actually go into our info section, and what's quite interesting about the info section is that usually we'd have to create a lot of these blocks by using variables in other platforms, but on Makecode Arcade it's been very, very clever, and they know that we're going to create games on here because it's an arcade gaming platform. So they actually create like score counters and life points and countdowns and timers all ready for us to use, which is even better. So the first thing we're going to do is when we touch one of our crystals, we want to actually change the score by 1, which is just in this score section here. Drag that in and place it onto there. So if we're doing that, we actually need to make sure that our score points at the start of the game start at 0. So you go back into the info, and then we're looking for the one that says set score to 0. Drag that one out, and you're placing it into the very first piece of script we created at the start of today's code along, at the very, very bottom. So that when our game starts, you should see now in the top right corner a little 0, and that's our point being counted. From here, we'll go back into this section and we want to add in some sound, just like we've done with the last two. So go back into music and we're looking for the one that says sound bidding, drag that out and place it underneath the change score by 1. We're going to change from bidding, we've used that one already, so click on that and we're looking for the one that says power up. And this is just my choice, you can choose whatever sound you wish. And again, we're going to change it from until done to in background, just so it doesn't mess around with any more of today's code. And we've got one final piece of code to put in, which is actually in the scene section. And again, we're going to scroll down to the bit that says tile map operations, and it's the third block in there. Drag that out, put it underneath, and we've got one last adaptation to make to it. Drag in the location bar into here. Perfect. That is our full bits of code all completed, and our game should be ready to play. All there is left to do is for you to try out your piece of code and try out your game and see how it goes. Why not even try some of your peers' games as well and see if you can beat their high score on their own game, and let your peers try your game as well. If you want to try and further or challenge yourself with today's session, why not try and see if you can create a second level? So all you would need to be doing there is creating a second map, and when you touch the chest, it will take you to the new map. Remember, you might need to add in some more time so you've got 2 different levels, but have a go, see how you get on, and happy coding everyone. Thank you so much for coming along, and I really hope you enjoyed the session. Remember, there are also further learning resources in the Curriculum Live Lessons Education Scotland team in the files section.